Hi everyone, I'm really pleased to welcome you to our latest Insight session. My name is Alison and I'm leading marketing communications in Northern Europe, covering UK, Ireland and Netherlands here at Vodafone Automotive. I'm really pleased to be joined today by Sergey, our Principal Category Manager for Fleet of Vodafone Procurement Company, and Craig, our Property Contract and Fleet Manager at Vodafone UK. They're going to talk a little bit about Vodafone's commitment to achieving our net zero target by 2030, all part of our company strategy. They'll be sharing some interesting insights from using our own fleet management solution here at Vodafone UK. Hi guys.
Hi Alison, hi Craig. It's a great opportunity to be here.
Hi Alison, hi Sergey. Nice to see you both.
Hi. Okay, quick question to warm up. Let's start with an easy one. So do you both drive electric vehicles yourself? How about you start, Craig?
I do, yeah. So I've been driving an electric vehicle since 2020. That's when we launched our EV fleet, so I needed to be an early adopter, and I've driven around 40,000 miles in my electric car.
Wow, that's great. What about you, Sergey?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm an EV driver as well, and similar to Craig, I switched to EV from October 2020 as well. And yeah, really, I wanted to be ahead of the game and also have hands-on experience on that, because I'm responsible for fleet in Vodafone, so that's important for me.
So that's great to hear that we're walking the talk when it comes to sustainability. I'm going to start with you, Sergey. So as Principal Category Manager for Vodafone Procurement Company, and you're responsible for driving Vodafone's procurement strategies and executing global deals. How many electric vehicles are currently part of Vodafone's fleet, and what is Vodafone's electrification strategy?
Yeah, okay. So at the moment, we have about 11,000 vehicles in our Vodafone markets, and about 37% of them are electrified, meaning it's either battery electrical vehicles or hybrids. So of course, we have some early adopters, like Craig mentioned. This is UK definitely, Germany, Spain, Greece and Luxembourg, where we have higher adoption and higher portion of electrical vehicles. When it comes to our fleet strategy, it's a subset of Vodafone wider strategy, as you mentioned, commitment to decrease our CO2 footprint down to net zero in 2030. However, what we said for our European markets, we challenge ourselves and we want to achieve it earlier by 2028. What does it mean? That means we should have only battery electrical vehicles in Europe by that time.
That's great. So do you think our car policies have changed considering recent global events like the pandemic, the recent spike in gas prices and chip shortages?
Yeah, absolutely. It had massive impact, just on our operations and policies as well. So during pandemic, people started to drive less, and we are reviewing our contractual mileage on a regular basis. Also, you can see that prices of gas and oil going up constantly, and of course, it's causing fuel and electricity prices going up. But we still believe that electrical vehicle will be more efficient and cheaper to drive versus diesel or petrol. Also, we are constantly looking and pushing CO2 limits for new car orders, so that's important to make sure we're transitioning smoothly to our EV fleet. And of course, we started to exclude ICE engines, meaning diesel and petrol, from our car list. And in some markets, we even started to do it from 2019. So yeah, we had a lot of changes in our policies.
Okay, that's great. So Craig, out of the 4,000 EVs that Sergey mentioned, how many of the vehicles fall under your management at Vodafone UK?
So in the UK, we've got around 1,400 vehicles. Now we've got a slightly different target because we're hoping to achieve net carbon zero by 2027. And we launched with our EV proposition in 2020, as I mentioned, and since then 98% of all car orders have been for pure EV. So we're making great strides to achieving that net carbon zero for 2027.
That's great. So with all of the EVs in use, how many tons of CO2 emissions have you saved so far? And can you share any other stats for the audience?
Yeah, so since we launched, we've saved around 7,000 metric tons of CO2. And in the last year, that alone is 3,500 metric tons of CO2, which is, 3,500 metric tons is the equivalent of around 3,500 hot air balloons.
That's amazing. So, Sergey, going back to you, thousands of electric vehicles obviously need adequate infrastructure to operate efficiently. What would you say was the biggest challenge when switching our company fleets to electric? Did you see any differences in the various countries that you support?
Yeah, of course, but I have to say there is not a single biggest challenge, as all markets have different level of readiness for transition to EVs. And even Craig mentioned that just that going to transition to 2027, and that means UK market, it's kind of like more advanced in that situation. But what areas we need to look at, like public infrastructure. So and the kind of like strongest one in North Europe, also in the UK, but Eastern Europe is still behind. Also, we need to look at TCR. Which is apparently impacted by cost of production of electrical vehicle, which is high at the moment, but in some markets it's subsidized or offset by subsidies and tax incentives and benefits. But it's not really harmonized in Europe, it's quite different. And last but not least, local policies and legislation. Just in some markets you even need to convince trade union first before transition to EVs. So that's a key areas to look at, yeah.
Wow, so there's lots to think about there. So Craig, the big question is now, how do you manage all of these vehicles in your market? Do you use telematics?
Yeah, we do. I mean, we've got a real split in our fleet. So I think some of the data that we talked about a minute ago with the reduction in the CO2 emissions comes from the physical model and the drive chain effectively. But also, like you mentioned there, we do use Vodafone Fleet Automotive for its telematics product. And that's been crucial for us to gain some insights and some data-based positioning so that we can select the right fleet for the future. So when we look at vehicle mileage, when we look at driving behavior, really supports our decision for putting vehicles into the fleet.
So I think that's Vodafone Business Fleet Analytics is the sort of official product name. So interesting. So what kind of data are you most interested in? What are the benefits of having these sort of insights?
So again, I think twofold. So one is, having that driving data based on where the drivers are driving to and from and what their average daily mileage is in order for us to survey and assess what might be a future fit for from an EV perspective. But also, once we may have transitioned some of that vehicle fleet to EV, it's looking at the data reports that are based on driver behavior. Because if we can make or support, the driving behaviors and make them more positive, then the EV is going to go further and we'll get more benefit and more of a reduction in some of that fleet. So there's a real positive opportunity there for us to look at that data and make some decisions over our fleet choice for the future.
That's making a real difference. So Sergey, how do you make sure that employees react positively to the changes?
Yeah, I would say, first of all, a change in mindset will be required to make it happen. What can support that is, and what we are doing, specific training for EV drivers, including trip planning. They need to understand how to drive, where to charge, and way of acceleration and braking. So that's quite important. Also, what can help test drives for employees, would be quite useful. And apparently, good motivation is for drivers where in countries specifically where we have tax benefits and incentives, salary sacrifice schemes. But as I mentioned, it's not really available equally in all the markets in Europe.
Sure. So finally, do you have any advice for companies who are planning to make this important switch? So maybe Craig, go with you first.
Yeah, I think the opportunities for switching to EV are still very much there, certainly from a UK perspective with the tax benefits, national insurance savings. So users should switch as soon as possible. There are obviously the CO2 reductions that are achieved through switching out from an internal combustion engine vehicle. So there are huge benefits to making that change for the environment. And I would say, if there's any nervousness around changing, then fit some telematics products and look at the data that can be provided and look at your fleet, and you'll see that that it's worthwhile from an energy saving perspective or from a sustainability perspective.
Oh, that's really great. And you, Sergey?
Yeah, I would say, first of all, for companies which will be transitioning to EVs, you need to set up a strong governance to manage a transition. For example, in Vodafone, we set up Green Fleet Steer Core with senior stakeholders from business, procurement, and HR. And also, we have Green Fleet Forum, which is operating on a monthly basis with all local markets, participating and share best practices, ideas, and progress so far, and what we are doing towards transition to EV. And as Craig already mentioned, very important and crucial, early plan for digitalization. Solutions like telematics will really help you to understand better which car to migrate to EV first and after, as well as to help to reduce costs. Last but not least, plan charging infrastructure. Consider what will be the adequate office charging. Do you have passenger cars or vans? And you may also consider a home charging subsidies if relevant.
Wow, so much to think about there, which is really great. So, and with that, we've come to the end of our insight session. Thanks to Sergey and Craig for your time. It was really interesting to sort of talk to you and listen to you today. So if you, the audience, would like to learn any more about how you can manage your fleet more efficiently and perhaps make that all-important switch to electric, then you can get in touch with our team or follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter and see what goes on. Okay, thanks everyone. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.